כן. תודה, נחמה. Wir haben anrekordieren unser Treffung heint, der 30. Mai 2024. הפגישה שלנו ב-30 במאי 2024. אם אני זוכר, זוהי פגישה מספר 324. כנראה, זה כבר 4 שנים שאנחנו נפגשים במסגרת Learn Yiddish and Yiddish Literature online. Und heint will ich anheben, reden wegen dem Indien, was endigt sich nicht, ein Indien, was hat angehört den 7. Oktober 2023 und schon 8 Monaten, als wir leben, sei in Medinas Israel und sei in Ausland, hat dem Tag und seine Konsequenzen vom 7. Oktober 2023. Und wenn wir reden wegen dem, was ist geschehen, dem 7. Oktober 2023, haben wir alle gelehnt und gehört, ob das, was ist geschehen, dem 7. Oktober, ist ähnlich wie das, was ist geschehen in der Shoah. Und wir reden wegen dem sehr Sach. Aber ich sage, als wenn man redet, ob es ist da ein Parallel oder eine Ähnlichkeit, some similarity between the Holocaust and the 7th of October 2023. Wenn man redet wegen dem, redet man nur only from the standpoint von dem Aspekt, was die deutsche Nazis haben getan und was Hamas in Gaza hat getan. Aber es ist da noch ein Aspekt, was keiner rührt nicht an. There is also one aspect to compare, which no one speaks about it. Und der Aspekt ist, was haben Jiden gefühlt, getracht und getan in der Zeit von der Shoah und im 7. Oktober 2023. Und wenn Nechama und der Mond Yitzchak Katzenelson hat sie euch der Mond, als ich habe gerät wegen dem, als Yitzchak Katzenelson hat geschrieben, wegen wie so ist gewesen die Reaktion von Jiden in der Zeit von der Shoah. Und ich sage, als es ist da eine Ähnlichkeit, there is a similarity between what Katzenelson told us about the Jewish people and its reaction and what happened in Medinas Israel the 7th of October. Nechama hat gefragt, wo hat Yitzchak Katzenelson geschrieben, das, was ich will, der Monat. Und ich entferne, im Jahr 1924 בשנת 1944, when Yitzhak Katzenelson is given in Vittel, in Konzentrationslager Vittel, eider mit ihm weggeschickt in Auschwitz. In Vittel hat angeschrieben seine Zichroines von der Tkufe von der Shoah in Warsche. Pinkas Vittel, the Vittel Diary, ist einer von den wichtigsten Dokumenten wegen der Shoah. Und dort schreibt Yitzhak Katzenelson ein paar Wochen eider mit ihm weggeschickt in Auschwitz. Für was Jiden haben במשך der Tkufe von der Shoah sich nicht entgegengestellt. Why didn't Jews react militarily against the Nazi Germans? And he says there a very important conclusion of his. He says in Pinkas Vittel, there is a paragraph, and I will not quote word by word, but I will quote the spirit of what he said. Everyone can see exactly his words in Hebrew in Pinkas Vittel. What Yitzhak Katzenelson said is, in my opinion, very important and can shed light on what happened in Medinas Israel in October. Because what Yitzhak Katzenelson tries to define is what is the so different mentality between the Nazi Germans and the Jews. The difference of mentality is connected with the intention of Nazi Germans to whip out from the world every other nation which is not ready to annihilate others because they don't feel and they don't think like the Germans. In the words of Yitzhak Katzenelson, the Jewish people never in the whole history, especially in the 20th century, never reached a point to want to annihilate all those who are not Jews. And Katzenelson says that in a very interesting way. But before I will try to quote the spirit what he says, I must tell about Yitzhak Katzenelson that he is one of the most important poets and thinkers of Jews between both world wars. And he is very well renowned as a personality in Poland between the two world wars. He established a whole network of education. He was at the head of a system of Jewish education from the kindergarten until the age of Jewish youngsters learning at the age of 15, 16, 17. He stood at the head of that system, educational system in Hebrew in Poland. So, in addition to being the most important poet of a younger generation in Poland between the two world wars, he was also one of the most important educators, Jewish educators in Poland between the two world wars. And as a Jewish educator, as the head of a whole system of schools, he had what to say about which are the ideals of Jewish education between the two world wars. And those ideals of Jewish education did not include any desire to whip out of the face of the earth other nations which were different from Jews, which is not the case with the German Nazis. What I want to say with that is that Yitzhak Katzenelson, as an educator and as a poet in Poland between the two world wars, and as a Jew, for him, it seems, was important the future of Jews in Poland living there or in other part of the world together with other cultures and with other nations. The future of a convivence with others was the most important aim and not what the Nazi Germans looked at, that everyone in the past who was not akin to the German ideology has no place in the world. And we remember what was Hamas what was the ideal of Hamas in its war against Jews in the state of Israel. From the river to the sea, Palestine free. This is what they said. Or if we try to translate it into Hebrew, Mi hanachal, from the river of the Jordan, ad layam, the Mediterranean, only rak Palestine kayam. So Hamas did not consider any place for the Jewish people in the land of Israel, which is exactly the opposite of the ideal of the Jewish people to try to live in the future together with other nations on the same earth. So in the moment I tried to show the difference between the relationship during the Holocaust and on the part of Hamas today to other cultures and other nations. In the moment I try to define what is the big difference from a cultural point of view between Jews and all who wanted to erase Jews and their culture from the world, I go back to Yitzhak Katzenelson and the paragraph he wrote in Pinkas Vitel in 1944. And there he says, why didn't we react aggressively against the intention of the Nazis to annihilate us? And when he is asking such a question, he's supposing that in principle, Jews are able to fight back aggressively and not let themselves to be killed by others. And the question, why didn't we during the Holocaust react violently against the Nazi Germans? The answer he wrote in Pinkas Vitel is, in my opinion, a very important and interesting answer in the spirit of what I said until now. He wrote in Pinkas Vitel, Katzenelson, we didn't react violently against Nazi Germany because, he says, in order to do that, in order to react violently, we should have been prepared to understand that Nazi Germany wants to annihilate us. We as Jews were not able to think about such a thought that we need to kill others totally in order to subsist. This is not Judaism. This is not our way of feeling. This is not our way of thinking. This is not the ideal for humanity in Judaism. And because we were not able to look like that about others, we were not prepared to understand what others are trying to do to us. And I say, the same happened in the state of Israel when we were not prepared to understand that Hamas planned during months, perhaps more than a year, exactly how to massacre the whole Jews, all the Jews of the kibbutzim, and all the Jews in the state of Israel. We couldn't imagine such a preparedness of Hamas. And this is the similarity which no one speaks about the Holocaust era and what happened the 7th of October. In other words, Jews were not prepared during the Holocaust, and Jews were not prepared in the 7th of October to understand that we live in a world where there is no intention of others to build a future, a common future between different nations with all the difference of cultures. מישהו רוצה לשאול או להגיד על מה שאמרנו עד עכשיו?
כן, אני רוצה, ich trage wegen Jensen und das. So does that mean that we can only live within ourselves, amongst ourselves, and not with other nations? Because other nations have historically, wanted to, if not annihilate us, pogroms and anti-Semitic blood libels. I'm just trying to understand, like, how we could live among people and not who want to annihilate us or do us harm, and yet we want to be hopeful about a future, as Katznelson wrote about, right? Future in Poland for the Jews. And how is that now with having, I guess, Israel and an army, and we're fighting? I mean, I guess you're saying that maybe we can't win because it's not,
maybe we can't what?
We can't win because we're not a people who annihilate or who believe in our own annihilation by other people. So we're never going to be prepared. That's what I'm asking. And also, a Holocaust survivor said to me once, he wore in Sosnovich a prison uniform, the striped pajamas. He said, you put me in a striped pajamas, I'm a Holocaust victim. You put me in an army uniform, I'm a soldier. So he was just showing me the analogy that I don't know. I don't remember why this came up, but I guess he resented that people said, couldn't you fight? Couldn't you do more? Couldn't you do something? It's hard for Holocaust survivors to hear that.
אוקיי.
Yeah.
ורה, מה את אומרת על מה שאמרנו עד עכשיו?
אין לי משהו להגיד.
איך את אומרת? אין לך משהו להוסיף?
כן.
אוקיי. אימי?
I was wondering, I don't know very much about Katzenelson. Was he a Zionist or an anti-Zionist? Or because you said he talked about the Jews having a future in Poland. Did he talk about Palestine?
Of course, he was not only a Zionist, but he considered in the 30s of the past century to make Aliyah, to come to Israel. But the only thing which deterred him from coming and settle here was that he was responsible of this set of educational institutions he headed. And there were a lot of his family members who were teachers, and he had a responsibility of scores of people to bring them to Israel and find for them occupation. Katzenelson was one of the most Zionist thinkers we know of the 20th century, and that begins in 1908 with one of his little dramas he wrote. No doubt, I didn't say that Katzenelson thought about Poland as the future of the Jewish people. What I try to say is that as a Zionist and as a person who thought about the future of the Jewish people in Israel, he was worried since 1908. How should we live in the state, or not in the state, but in the land of Israel in 1908, together with the Arabs, which he never spoke about kicking them out, but thinking, how can we live together?
Yeah.
And I recommend every one of you to read about Yitzhak Katzenelson's poetry and about all he did between the two world wars, because in my opinion, he is one of the most important historical leaders of Polish Jewry between the wars connected with the Zionist ideal. He was in Israel twice, in the state of Israel. He came here twice to visit and to see what can be done to translate, to bring here all his enterprises. כן. טוב. אני חושב שאנחנו יכולים, אם אין עוד הערות על מה שאמרנו, או אם יש, לעבור לשטריגלר, להמשך הקריאה אצל שטריגלר.
Okay, a minute. I'm going to do share screen.
כן.
Strigler. Okay. Can you see?
רואים?
Yeah. Can you see? Maybe I'll make it bigger a little bit. Just a minute.
איזה, תגידו
Where
רק
did it
איזה
go?
עמוד ואיזה שורה.
Oh, now I don't know where it went. Just a minute. I don't know where it went. Oh, here. Okay. I think we're on Gimel, part Gimel.
פרק ג', כן.
Parak Gimel.
The fourth paragraph.
In Gimel?
The fourth paragraph.
Okay.
הפרגרף הרביעי.
כן. ביטוי אחד לפני האחרון. אובר.
את רואה נחמה?
Ober Ideen?
Ober der Zosiker Kishuf.
עובד הדוזיקר כישוף.
נחמה?
No, I don't see it. What does the paragraph start with? Yeah.
לא יותר קל להגיד איזה שורה מלמעלה או מלמטה?
It's 7.
שורה 7 מלמעלה או מלמטה?
מלמטה.
שורה 7 מלמטה, נחמה.
אובר דר דוזיקר כישוף.
Okay. Yeah.
טוב, נחמה תקראי.
Okay. Ober der Dosiker Kishuv hat nicht gekannt bleiben auf euch beim kommendigen Dorf, bei welchen das Abhieten Jiddischkeit in welcher Form das soll nicht sein, ist verbunden mit Größe Carbones.
אוקיי. 2-3 מילים ביידיש ותרגום לאנגלית.
Over der Dosiker Kishuv, but this very magic or something?
Yes, this very magic, כן?
Hat nicht gekannt bleiben euch beim kommendigen Dorf.
את פה, כן?
Yeah, couldn't also remain, stay or remain with the future generations.
Okay, so what Strigler is saying here is that even though there is a big difference in the Jewish identity of centuries compared with the Jewish identity today, there are similar aspects and there is a kind of continuity, but such continuity couldn't remain for the next generation, the generation of the sons of those who live today. What Srila is trying to say is that the Jewish identity today, in the 20th century, needs a new definition. Otherwise, the next generation will not be able to continue to be Jewish. המשפט הבא.
Bei welchen das Abhieten Jiddischkeit, in welcher Form das soll nicht sein, ist verbunden mit Größe Carbones.
Okay, so why is there no possibility that the next generation of the sons should keep his Judaism? Because of the discontinuity in our time between the past identity of Jews and today, to continue for the new generations of the sons to be Jewish would be connected with große Korbones, to make big sacrifices. And because there will be a need in the coming generations to make big sacrifices for their identity, it will not stay anymore. And next generation will cease to be Jewish in any way. What Striegler is trying to say is that if there will not be a new definition what is to be Jewish, there will not be Jews anymore in the future, which is a very harsh argument. But Striegler is really realist enough to understand that the new generations of the sons of the fathers of today, the new generations need very urgently to define their Jewish identity. Otherwise, they will never be able to continue to be Jews in the style of former generations. What Striegler is saying is it's not important to be Jewish dafka in the old style. What is important is to find a definition what means to be Jewish today. Otherwise, there will not be Jews at all. מה את אומרת על זה, נחם?
I guess I'm just thinking, Halaman machen Shabbos for sich. I mean, you take what it means to you, for you in your situation, in your environment, in the
Every
moment.
generation does that, I say. Every generation interprets its Jewishness as it suits them. But Striegler is saying there is a problem. Maybe the next generations will not want to be any more Jewish. And because of that, they will not look after a definition for themselves what is to be Jewish. Striegler is saying there will not be any motivation to be Jewish. And from the point of view of Striegler, if there is no willingness or motivation to be Jewish, to be different from other nations in the light of the Jewish history and tradition. If there is not such a motivation, there is a possibility that there will not be any more Jewish people. And if there will not be any more Jewish people, I say, all the baggage, all the Jewish culture of centuries will disappear. And if the Jewish culture for centuries will disappear, one of the central cultural assets of human culture will get lost. And the main importance of such Jewish tradition, as I say, and perhaps as we will see, Striegler argues in continuation, is the bond between Jews today and the imperative category which we call it God, which is the absolute consciousness about what is right to do, not from the viewpoint of an egoistic personal interest, but from the viewpoint of a general outlook about what is proper for humanity to acquire. Hama,
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I really don't understand what he thinks one has to keep in order to continue being Jewish and pass on to the next generation, specifically.
Well, you don't understand because such definition was not made yet. But the basis for such definition of identity is the relationship between Jews and an absolute look at what is important for humanity. Vera, יש לך מה להגיד על זה? לא חייבת, אני רק שואל.
לא יודעת מה להגיד.
אוקיי.
לדעתי, הדורות הקודמים,
כן.
תמיד איכשהו יש השפעה לדורות הבאות, אבל דורות הבאות מחפשים את הדרכים שלהם. יש להם זכות ללכת בדרכם, בדרך שלהם.
כיהודים.
כן, גם הם מחפשים
נכון. על זה מדברים.
שלהם.
כן.
זהו.
אימי, מה את אומרת? אימי, שומעת?
Amy, I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry
okay.
about that. Okay, I didn't realize. Yes, I agree with everything that's been said. But I guess
One
I would
moment.
just,
Who said you agree with what? Who said?
oh, with I guess the idea that every generation finds its own way.
To be
Basically,
Jewish,
that
not to be only a part of humanity.
right. But I think sometimes I feel like I'm seeing young Jewish people finding their own way to be in humanity and not grappling with their way of being Jewish,
Right.
and also walking away from it. I've been
Right.
thinking about this lately a lot because of some of these Jewish young people who are protesting, pro-Palestinian protesting, and um, and I from other experiences I have, like 20 years ago, I went and I worked for an educational organization that worked on, curriculum development and specifically anti-bias education. So we had a lot of workshops. We were all working on ourselves, it wasn't just a job where you went and you did a job and came home. You went and you tried to grow and develop and discuss everything. And they had an exercise where we had to, they would, it was this exercise to show us what the different identities that we have are. So they would say, if you grew up rich, or if you grew up middle, or if you grew up poor. So we would walk to a part of the room and we would be in those groups. And they would say, if you grew up, or not grew up, but if you identify as, the genders and the sexes, then you walked into those groups. And if you identified as particular races, you walked into those groups. And one of the things that happened was there were a bunch of Jewish people working there, but only two of us, me and one other woman, went into the Jewish group when they said, who is Jewish and who is this and who is that. And all of the other Jewish people stayed out of the Jewish group. They just didn't want to be Jewish. They, they just wanted to be secular, humanist, leftist, whatever. And they thought that they couldn't be all those things, I guess, if they stuck with being Jewish. And I've been thinking lately that you know, I think that maybe, let's say for me personally, sometimes I think it would make my life so much easier, and it would make my feelings and my brain so much easier if also I just walked away from it, because it's hard. It's really hard being Jewish and having to stick with our people through very hard things. So so that's just one part of this, finding, each generation finding how they're going to be Jewish. I really feel like it has to be more than just the justice and morality. I really think, there's another part of it, because all humans should have justice and morality. That every human, that doesn't I just think that being Jewish, it does require sacrifices, and some people seem to have the luxury of walking away from that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Okay, so what you are saying can be resumed in one Yiddish saying, schwer zu sein ein Yid.
That's it.
Yes?
Yeah.
But now we can try to understand or to explain why Jews say in Yiddish, schwer zu sein ein Yid. Why is it so difficult to be a Jew? And I want to say, when we speak about what is the basis of being a Jew in the history of the Jewish people, we came across the mitzvot. 613 mitzvot. Not that every Jew accomplishes all the 613 mitzvot, but a mitzvah is one of the principles along which we design what is to be a Jew. And I think that we cannot say that there is no one mitzvah which is, there is no such a thing like a mitzvot which has no importance for our Jewish identity. There are mitzvot which define in a very, I would say, intellectual and practical way what means to be a Jew. A mitzvah is not a kind of belief. A mitzvah is the way of acting in life. And the big difference between a mitzvah and a kind of belief is that a mitzvah is a deed. And we can say that to be Jewish is to do some mitzvot which we believe are the core of our being Jewish. So the issue can be reformulated asking how many or which of the 613 mitzvot are relevant for us today. For instance, if we sit at the table and go to eat, and we make a bracha while we are eating bread, has that any importance from the point of view of our Jewish identity? Nechama, what do you say?
I respect people who make a bracha. I myself don't do it. I don't know. I don't know. I have a problem with the question, wer is a Yid? I don't know. We all come in different forms, different backgrounds, different thinking. I guess we're all Jews. If I don't know. I don't know. The question is, wer is a Yid? I don't know. Is there a true Yid? Is there somebody who's trying to be a Yid but isn't really? I don't know. And I also have trouble thinking about what's going on now in Israel, you know, with the infighting, and this one says this and this one says that. Even here we have opinions and
כן.
I
ורה,
yeah.
אוקיי. ורה, מה המקום של 613 המצוות בהגדרה מיהו יהודי? מה את אומרת?
לדעתי, בגלל שאנחנו גרים בזמן שאין לנו, איך זה, עוד לא בנו את הבית השלישי, איך זה?
בית המקדש.
בית המקדש. אז כל המצוות שקשורות לבית המקדש הן לא רלוונטיות עכשיו. אבל מה שאני חושבת, שאנחנו לא סתם העם המבחר. פשוט אני מבינה את זה ככה, שאנחנו, שיהודים, צריכים להיות דוגמה לעמים אחרים.
כן.
וזהו, וכל הזמן, כל בן אדם, במיוחד יהודי, צריך לחשוב איזה דוגמה הוא נותן למי שבסביבתו לפחות. זהו. זה כמו שכאשר אנחנו במשפחה עם ילדים, עם קרובי משפחה שלנו, גם בחיים בעולם, איך אנחנו מתנהגים, צריך לחשוב על זה תמיד. לפחות
אוקיי.
זה...
מה שוורה אומרת נוגע למה שאני הזכרתי, שיש values, ערכים אבסולוטיים, שלפיהם אנחנו כיהודים רוצים לחיות. לא ערכים שהם טובים באופן פרטי לעם זה או אחר, אלא ערכים אבסולוטיים, וכאן נכנס המושג של אלוהים, ערכים שקשורים לכל האנושות. ובהגדרה של מיהו יהודי, אפשר להגיד, אותו אדם שחי בעם שרוצה להיות אור גויים, יש מושג כזה, the light of humanity. אותו אדם ששייך לעם שרוצה לחיות לאור ערכים אבסולוטיים, לא של איש זה או אחר, לא של קבוצה זו או אחרת. זוהי חלק מההגדרה מיהו יהודי. אימי, את מסכימה?
כן.
כן. נחמה, המשפט הבא.
I just want to say there was a word in vecher, but I think it's in velcher. It's a mistake. It's missing a lamed. Okay. Zum Wievielsten Mal ist bestätigt geworden der Klau, was wir haben bekannt in Meshech von alle jüdische Epoches. And it's a colon there. Ideen, was seinen ausgetragen geworden von lange Jahrhunderter, können sich euch auswirken auf lange Jahrhunderter voraus.
עד פה. 2-3 מילים ביידיש ותרגום לאנגלית.
Zum wievielsten Mal
How many times? Or during many time, many opportunities. Okay.
Ist bestätigt geworden der Klau.
It was confirmed, the principle. So during many, many times in history, a principle was confirmed that
was wir haben bekannt in Meshech von alle jüdische Epoches.
So this principle, which was confirmed again and again, we knew him during different historical times. Okay? And what is the principle which was confirmed?
Ideen, was seinen ausgetragen geworden von lange Jahrhunderter.
עד פה, תרגום.
Ideas which were
carried out
from
during centuries.
Okay. Können sich auswirken auf lange Jahrhunderter voraus.
Such ideas which were confirmed in the history many times can be influential also many generations ahead. So what Striegler is saying is that in Judaism, there are some ideas, some principles who were very sound and important during centuries, and because of that, those ideas may be influential also in the future. Striegler only has to say us in continuation which are those ideas. And this is what he will say in his article in continuation. Is it clear what we said now?
Yeah. Okay, es ist noch ein Satz. Aber Ideen, was ein Dor hat geschaffen und nicht gelost, sie beheuchen von längeren Zeiten, können mehr wie ein Dor nicht begeistern.
תרגום.
Okay, aber Ideen, was ein Dor, okay, but ideas which one generation hat geschaffen, created,
right.
Und nicht gelost, sie beheuchen von längeren Zeiten.
Und nicht gelost, sie beheuchen von längeren Zeiten. And didn't let that these ideas should prevail during a long time.
Was meint beheuchen?
Beheuchen means to influence.
Oh, okay.
Heuchen is the breath of our mouth, which gives us a breath in the future. Okay.
Okay. I'm just writing it down. Okay. Von längeren Zeiten können mehr wie ein Dor nicht begeistern.
So Australia says that such ideas which were pertinent and important during a period of time are not able to continue their influence in coming generations. Hala?
Okay. Okay. Wenn man hat eingesehen dem Tues, ist schon gewesen zu spät.
תרגום.
When we notice or realized,
we realized this mistake, that there are ideas who have no force for coming generations, is schon zu spät. It was too late.
Too late.
Okay. Because we continued to go with those ideas who were not prevailing anymore, and because of that, it was not efficient.
Was ist der the infinitive, eingesehen? Einsehen or zen?
We realized.
No, but what is it, the infinitive? Einsehen or zen ein? Is it einsehen? Einsehen, okay.
To realize.
Okay.
To look at it, how it functions.
Okay. Okay. A ganzer Dor hat sich schon angesappt mit glühendicken Bittel zu als was wurzelt in die völkische Tiefenischen.
Okay. 2-3 מילים, תרגום לאנגלית. A ganzer Dor,
an entire generation hat sich
so
schon...
he's explaining why was it too late. Because a whole generation hat sich eingesappt, was impregnated with
glühendicken Bittel.
Bittel, was impregnated with negation, burning negation of those old principles. Okay?
Zu alt was wurzelt in die völkische Tiefenischen.
So a whole generation was impregnated with a negation to everything, which is rooted in the death of the people.
Okay. Der Weg zurück hat bechen gemusst sein schwerer.
And because of that, the way back to look what went wrong, hat gemusst sein schwerer, must have been more difficult because the new generation was already against the old principles, was negating the definition how to be Jewish from former generations. And because of that, it was more difficult to explain to the new generations that the negation is not because the old principles are not important, but it is because new generations are not able to cope with the old definition, and there is needed a new way to define what is to be Jewish. המשפט הבא.
Vollbit Wacklenischen und Harbe Naciones.
תמשיכי.
No, that's the end of the sentence.
מה המילה הראשונה שאמרת?
Oh, full mit Wacklenischen und Harbe Naciones.
Yes. So the way back to understand these old principles, the way back was very difficult, full mitvah clinician. The way was full with indecisiveness, clinician, und
halbe.
And very difficult trials to understand what went wrong. So the way back was very difficult because it was too late. People didn't understood that the old definition how to be Jewish is not prevailing anymore. And because of that, they were against them. And because of that, they were negating not only those principles, but also their very Jewishness. המשפט הבא.
Euch jene hastige Losung, was ruft uns jetzt geseder zum Umkehr, hat bei uns gehabt mehr negative Tenor, der positive.
So I will not translate word by word, but I will say what he's trying to say is that the way back to understand what went wrong, the way back had more negative paths than positive. So it was very difficult to make a reckoning of what happened with the Jewish identity. He's saying the same thing. המשפט הבא.
Telmol is the ungelosen geworden mit kritischer Hysteria, was will schon legamre nicht der Sinn die zeitliche Änderungen.
Will nicht, מה המילה הבאה? will nicht.
לגמרי nicht der Sinn die zeitliche Änderung.
לגמרי nicht der Zen.
Nicht der Zen, ja, der Zen.
כן.
Die zeitliche Änderungen.
Okay. Again, I will make a paraphrase instead of translating word by word. What Shigla is saying that the way back was so difficult because the generation who realized that the definition who is a Jew is no more prevailing for their time, it makes them so uneasy that they were not able to understand what happened. And they related only negatively to those old principles who were no more pertinent for their Jewish identity in their time. They didn't understood that times changed and there is needed a new definition. Okay. המשפט הבא. כן, בכבוד.
Sorry, I'm just looking. Okay. Okay. In Sach Hakel is their name given a Sach Klorer wie der Ja.
Okay. So again, he's saying the same thing, but he says, in resuming, the no to the Jewish identity was more clear than the yes. So there was an estrangement between the new generation and his definition of who is a Jew. משפט הבא.
Wir haben eingesehen, als das Verlassen sich auf ein Neuem führt nicht zum Ziel und dafür muss man sich umkehren.
אוקיי. 2-3 מילים, תרגום לאנגלית.
Wir haben eingesehen, we realized,
We realized, right,
als das Verlassen sich auf ein Neuem, that
as
to,
those verlosen sich auf Nein, we realized that to build on the basis of all the new, okay? All the
Here-
new way of defining them,
führt nicht zum Ziel,
don't bring us to our purpose to become consciously Jewish. Then,
und dafür muss man sich umkehren.
and because of that, that only basing ourselves as Jews on the new doesn't bring us to our purpose to be Jewish. And because of that, darf man sich umkehren. And because of that, we learned that we should go back and look at those principles who can give us a sound definition of who is a Jew. המשפט הבא.
Aber die aufgewachte Liebschaft zum Over ist gewesen ein Kind von abstrakter maybe Bankschaft.
נכון, עד פה. אובר,
Die aufgewachte Liebschaft.
כן. But the aufgewachte Liebschaft, the love which was renewed in our midst of the past. משפט הבא.
Ist gewesen ein Kind von abstrakter, I think it says Ben Kaft, but I think it's Bankschaft.
Bankshaft, כן.
No, it's missing a shin. So
Okay,
it's
so
a
you
mistake.
added
Yeah.
Bankshaft. So it was an array of abstract yearning for the past, says Strigler. This awakening of a love for the past, which we were looking in the past, a basis on which to build. This was an abstract yearning, not a practical one.
Okay, the next word's Hebrew. I don't know. Funa, I don't know how to pronounce it. Lamed Yud Tav. Brere. Aleis Brere?
Aleis Brere. It was a yearning, an abstract yearning for Aleis Brere, because we had no other choice. Leis Brere. We had no other choice but to yearn abstractly to the past, because in the present we were not living anymore like that. משפט הבא.
So Leis Brere is the
Leis Brere is Aramic. Ein
Yeah.
Brera.
Ona Brere, yeah?
Ona Brere.
Okay,
Right.
okay. I'm just writing it down, just a minute.
Yeah,
Okay.
let in Aramaic is on, without.
On, okay. Von an äußerlich Mittel zum Raten sich.
Okay. So, no choice zu raten sich. in order to redeem ourselves from an äußer Mittel. It was an exterior way to try to save ourselves. It was not an interior, ingrained way, but an exterior way to yearn abstractly to a past which we were not living it anymore. המשפט הבא.
Es hat gefällt der systematischer Übergang.
Oh, this is a key sentence. Stigler is saying what was lacking was, the problem was, it was lacking a systematischer Übergang, a transition, a systematic transition from the past to practical definitions in the present. There was no systematic transition from Jewish principles in the past to practical ways of being Jewish today. המשפט הבא.
Die Forschung von einem echt Positiven, was hat sich abgestellt auf die zurückgebliebenen Wegen.
מה המילה הראשונה שאמרת?
Die Forschung von einem echt
לא, מה זה
Positiven.
המילה הזאת?
Oh, die Forschung.
Die Forschung. So what are the practical ways for such a transition, which were lacking? Die Forschung, the investigation of what? Die Forschung von
einem echt Positiven, was hat sich abgestellt auf die zurückgebliebenen Wegen.
Okay, so what was lacking in such a transition was an investigation of the positive aspects which became at hold because of the whole situation. So they were lacking a positive way of investigating what are the positive aspects which we have to carry with us from the past. Because the generation was immersed in negative reaction to the past without investigating what are the positive aspects it should carry with it for the future. Okay.
We have one more sentence. Can we finish the paragraph?
Okay.
Okay. Der Fahr ist a viele das Imitieren Traditionalism herausgekommen künstlich und natürlichen Leben.
Der Fahr ist das ma מילה ביידיש?
No, der Fahr ist a viele das imitieren.
איזה אותיות?
Aleph, Yud, Mem, Yud, Tet, Yud, Resh, Nun, Sofit.
Imitieren means to
imitate, maybe?
To imitate, right.
Okay.
שתיים, שלוש מילים, דבר, because of that, because there was a lacking of investigating the positive aspects of the past, because of that, even the imitation of
traditionalism?
Right. Because of that, even the imitation of traditionalism to keep ways of the past, can
herausgekommen, Kinslach,
Kinsler, became artificial. Kinsler. The imitation became artificial. Can
we have to talk about this. Who made it artificial? Like, how did it?
The Jews they were trying to imitate the traditionalism, but because there was no investigation about the positive aspects, the imitation became artificial. תמשיכי.
Unnatürlichen Leben.
Without natural life. At home.
Yeah, he doesn't mention any specific groups of people. He's
speaking about the Jews at all in contemporary Jewishness, but he will say it in the continuation, but not today.
Okay. Can I stop yeah, I'm going to stop the share screen.
Here.
Wait, I'm going to stop the recording.
Yes, and Monday we'll continue.
Stop recording. Okay. Stop.